Alright, so I watched 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, and it was so fucking good. I was in the theater chuckling and slapping my belly like a fucking idiot sometimes. And, don't get me wrong, this movie is really messed up at times. There's some really gruesome moments, but there's some really funny moments here as well. Like, there's a scene where Ralph Fiennes gets high with a zombie and they geek out looking at the sun, and man, that's just perfect for me. I also like that this movie's horror isn't just in its gnarly visual effects. It also kind of mentally fucks with you. It really tests your fortitude there. It's wild. I'll try and give a quick rundown here, but this movie picks up after the events of the last movie. It starts with Spike, who is now in the custody of the Jimmy cult, the Power Ranger fuckers from the end of the last movie, and we see that these guys are just crazy, like batshit crazy, and he has to 1v1 one of these guys to death. If he wins, he gets to join their cult, and if not, he just dies. And he wins the fight by stabbing the dude in some vital point in his leg, and he bleeds out while the cult stares on. They're unfazed. It's really weird. Hard to watch, but it also gives you a sense of the absolute misery and crazy shit you're gonna be seeing out of these guys. That wasn't even the craziest part, but yeah, they get him going. He throws on that Jimmy Savile fit and joins the cult, and they get a move on where they eventually find themselves at some compound where they torture this family. It's really bad. There's a dinner table scene which is really well acted because you can feel the unease from the minute it starts, but it's a rough watch for sure. Going away from them for a sec, the other story in this movie follows Ralph Fiennes' character, the doctor. I think Dr. Ian is his name, and he continues to do his Bone Temple shit. He puts the skulls and bones on poles and makes this literal bone temple. Get it? The fucking title, but yeah.
Shut the fuck up!
He does this as a means to immortalize those that were lost in a manner similar to a graveyard, but minus the risk of the undead zombie virus that he suspects lingering at the time. We learn that this is not the case. It's not like an undead virus, but of course he's not taking chances, and in a way it still immortalizes the human race, right? But we see that he's been actively studying the science of it all, attempting to make sense of it in a way that he can solve, and he does this by adopting the alpha zombie infected fucking guy. He takes him as a live patient, test subject, whatever you want to call it. But similarly to the way he did in the last movie, he sedates the alpha and begins a series of tests. He puts his life on the line, engaging in classical conditioning, language exchange, and even dance lessons. He's running a real fucking classroom here, and it's a lot of fun to watch because the movie lets you in on the scientific approach while also revealing a bit about the character Dr. Ian. He's a man who at this point cares very little about his own life, yet perseveres as a personal duty that he finds himself carrying to cure another patient, aka the alpha male, and subsequently help what's left of the human race. But we basically follow him and the alpha zombie as the two become what might be the coolest part of the movie for sure. Meanwhile, one of the cultists, her name is later revealed to be Kelly. She stumbles upon him and believes he might be Satan. That's right, the Jimmy cult is a Satanist group. They're not some religious fanatic group in the sense that you thought. I saw many people questioning whether they were like Jimmy Savile followers who are ultra Christian, because obviously he was Jack O'Connell's character, I believe, is the boy at the beginning of the first movie who's the son of the pastor. So a lot of people thought it was going to be like Christian religious fanaticism, but no. These guys are Satanists. The fucking Jimmy Savile cosplayers are a bunch of Satanists. Of course, led by Jimmy Crystal, aka Remick, aka Jack O'Connell, who's currently one of my favorite actors, for sure. He's been on a tear as a villain recently, and I'm excited to see him in future projects, man. But anyway, we go back to the cultists in that compound, and they're over there torturing the family. Like, they literally skin people alive, and they give one of them the chance to fight for a spot in the group, and it's an odd fight scene. Like, it's really messed up. It's slow, it's grueling, and then the girl starts like molesting him. It's really messed up. It really, like, this movie tests you to see whether or not you're gonna be able to handle it. When I was in the theater, a group of people actually left in this barn scene. Like, it's kind of fucked up, to be honest with you, but it ends with a barn fire, right? And when one of the family members escapes and Spike lets them go, the main Jimmy and some of the others, they're like, yeah, we're gonna fucking kill you. But the girl Jimmy, Kelly, she's like, nah, we should leave his judgment up to Satan himself. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Bro, what the fuck is you even talking about, bro?
And then she's like, yeah, Satan's over there. And of course she's referring to Ralph Fiennes' character because he has this like orange thing on him, like some protective orange shit. Yeah, they agree. They're gonna go over to the Bone Temple, get his fucking divine judgment. So we finally get both stories in the movie colliding. The leader of the cult, this Jack O'Connell fucking Satanist Jimmy Crystal guy, and Ralph Fiennes, They have a conversation and it's super interesting, alright? We got an atheist doctor, mad scientist who's sort of lost his mind through isolation and continuous exploration in science in this attempt to cure the disease that's taken over the human race. And then on the other hand, you got the Satanist led by Jimmy Crystal, who's a self-proclaimed son of Satan who communicates with him and commands the group in his favor. Ultimately, he's a bit fraudulent and he doesn't even know if Ralph Fiennes is actually Satan. But the two of them come together and have a conversation, and they immediately drop the act in a suspenseful conversation where Jack O'Connell, who from the start has been made to be questionable as a fraud, asks Ralph Fiennes to pretend to be his father, aka Satan, and to give him his blessing, or I guess since he's supposed to be the devil, his curse. I don't really know, but he basically tries to appoint him as the chosen one. And so time passes, and the next day we get to the ritual part where he fully commits to it. Ralph Fiennes is over there acting like the devil. He's got this paint on him, he's playing Iron Maiden and moving around like this freaky fucking serpent kind of thing, and it's so cool. It's so much fun, right? And Ralph Fiennes' commitment to a character that's playing another character, it's a real pleasure to watch. He's of course incredible as always, but they carry on and he's going through with appointing the main Jimmy as the chosen one when he looks at the masked up Jimmys and notices Spike. Of course, if you remember from the last movie, him and Spike were fucking tapped in, so in an attempt to save Spike, he commands the cult to sacrifice and crucify the main Jimmy, aka Jack O'Connell, similarly to how Jesus was crucified, right? But they hesitate, and Jimmy Crystal tries to tell them that Ralph Fiennes is a fraud and proves it by stabbing him. But the girl Kelly says fuck it, and literally just solos everyone else. Like, she's literally Mikasa from fucking Attack on Titan. Like, she starts actually handing out the meanest hand-to-hand fucking fighting I've seen in the entire movie. And then Spike just sneaks the fuck out of Jimmy Crystal. They finish him off and eventually pin him to an upside-down cross, and Ralph Fiennes is slowly dying. He's just lying there beside Jimmy Crystal who's hanging. And in a daze of delirium, by the way, based on the fact that he's dying, Jimmy Crystal sees the alpha infected dude as the devil as he comes through and carries Dr. Ian away. He curses, thinking his father fucking damned him again, which is really funny to see. But this brings us to the alpha guy. All the while this is going on, the alpha infected guy, he went back to the train that we saw him in the last movie, and he sat there reliving an entire memory, going through it and forming words as he remembered. And this is where we see that the experimentation he'd undergone at the hands of Dr. Ian, Ralph Fiennes, was successful. He's now returned to normal. And in this movie, we actually learn that the rage virus is one that affects you more so mentally. It's not that regular undead type of thing. Like, it's literally exactly as it sounds. It's rage based on this delusional vision that you're given. It's like your brain is tricking you. And this is made much cooler when the alpha infected guy snaps out of it. And as soon as he snaps out of it, the other infected ones on the train just attack him. Immediately, this fucking switch flips in their brain on him, and this starts a really big fight, and it was super cool to watch. This guy retains the strength and power of an alpha infected, so he kind of just fucks everyone up, and even withstands bites and blood splatter and all that shit, since he's already been infected, you know. He's now this immune tank, and it's actually crazy. But the movie ends with him saying thank you and carrying the doctor out of there. Then we get to see the pair of Spike and Kelly leaving and exploring, right? The alpha guy's been cured, and he's taken the doctor to rest, and the Jimmy cult is dead. But then, on some Avengers shit, we saw the return of the amazing Cillian Murphy at the end, reprising his role as Jim as he's with his daughter, who he presumably had with Selena, even though she wasn't really there. I'm sure we'll get an explanation for that for the next movie. But we watch as the two of them, who were initially talking about world history in preparation for a test, notice Spike and Kelly running from some infected, and they decide to help. This fucking ending had me jumping for joy here, you know. I became an immediate nuisance in the theater, and I regret absolutely nothing, okay? Cillian Murphy coming back has made me 10 times more excited for the next movie, and man, I was already wanting more, which is crazy. But yeah, this movie was incredible. From the beginning, they're on their A game. They start off with incredibly messed up concepts and continue to not shy away from this. I like how gritty the world is, you know. The selfish human nature is shown multiple times throughout both of these new movies, but I like how far they're willing to go in order to show how vile and disgusting humans become as a result of this. With people like the Satanists running around, you end up rooting more for the alpha infected guy to show up and just murder them, and in a way, it's almost like being infected is more merciful. The concept of extremist Satanism clashing with science-based atheism is always interesting, considering they both reject the common notions of God, but where one denies the existence of higher power entirely, the other embraces and relishes in the sick, cynical aspects that traditional theism denies. And all around, the acting is incredible, right? There isn't a single moment where I'm feeling iffy about it at all. From the Jimmy fucking cult members all the way to Ralph Fiennes and the infected, it's so good. I'll say it again, but there's no shying away from making things really disgusting. You feel how fucked up things are immediately. And they carry that tone without fail, which is really, really cool because at the end of the movie, the last movie, we saw this Power Rangers like group, and it makes you wonder if it's just gonna become a bit silly, but no. They're assholes, they're disgusting, and you get to see that throughout the movie to a point where your stomach drops and you damn near fucking throw up watching some of this shit. It's pretty good. They've also got really cool effects, and perhaps most importantly, they have some of the best fucking needle drops in any movie I've watched in the last couple of years. There are multiple occasions where I think to myself that I'd probably ask the scientist for his fucking playlist instead of The Cure because it's so good. But overall, this movie is fucking incredible, and while it has flaws of its own, like pacing at certain times, for example, I can say without a doubt it's a great start to the year for horror and movies in general, and it's a great addition to this trilogy. I understand that the next one is going to be the last one, so I'm really excited to see how they wrap it up. But yeah, it's cool as shit. If you haven't already, you gotta watch it. That's pretty much it.